If you're thinking about booking a cruise on P&O Iona, especially during the school holidays, this is the honest review you need to watch. This was a full sailing, over 6,400 passengers on board, including around 900 children. So I'll show you what that actually feels like day to day. I'll also talk you through the itinerary, dining, entertainment, service, atmosphere on board, and whether this cruise offers real value for money. This was my second time on Iona, so I already knew the ship and how it works, but this cruise started very differently. Embarkation on this sailing was chaotic. We arrived around our allocated time, but there was already a long queue outside the terminal, and before you even got inside, you had to queue again just to join the correct line. In total, we were waiting outside for over an hour before getting into the terminal, and then there was another wait to get through check-in and security. Now, it's important to say, I haven't experienced this during embarkation on previous P&O cruises, so hopefully this was just a one-off, but it wasn't the best start. And for some of my family who were cruising for the first time, it was also confusing. And by the time we got on board, places like Olive Grove were already fully booked for the first few nights, so straight away, you could feel the impact of a full sailing. But once we stepped on board, that feeling disappeared almost immediately. Muster was quick, cabins were ready, and everything felt organized again. Iona has had a refit since my last cruise. No major changes, but it does feel fresher, and even with over 6,400 passengers on board, once embarkation was out of the way, I rarely thought about how many people were actually on the ship. One of the best things about Iona is the amount of choice you have when it comes to dining. You've got 4 main dining rooms, flexible options like the Keys and Taste 360, the Horizon Buffet, and venues like Olive Grove, and they are all included. And then there are specialty restaurants like Sindhu, the Beach House, the Epicurean, the Limelight Club, and Keel & Cow. Since P&O Cruises updated their menus, the main dining room food has improved, and the service in the main dining room on this cruise was noticeably better than what I experienced on Avia. Even during half-term, I never waited more than about half an hour using the virtual queue, even on celebration night. What really makes Iona work, though, is flexibility. Places like the Keys and Taste 360 mean you can eat when you want, which is especially useful with children. I actually had my best included meal in Olive Grove. It was fully booked when we boarded, but I spoke to the maitre d' and managed to get a late lunch, so it's always worth asking. The only weak point for me was the Horizon Buffet. There's plenty of seating, even on busy mornings, but the food itself is quite basic, often lukewarm, and the stations repeat the same options. It's not at the level of other cruise lines. I also had an excellent meal in Sindhu, although the beach house wasn't quite as good as I've experienced before. And we tried the Ripples ice cream afternoon tea, which was a nice experience. And one afternoon tea was easily enough for 4 people. If you want a full breakdown of all the dining options, I've got a dedicated video on that, which I'll link in the description. One of the key things with entertainment on Iona is understanding how it works. The best thing you can do is book your theatre shows before your cruise. That opens about 2 weeks in advance, and once it's done, you don't need to think about it again. The 8:30 show is the most popular, so I'd recommend booking that in advance. The later show is usually easier to get into. That said, even on a full sailing, I still saw spare seats in most shows, and you can turn up on the night and often still get in. So it's not something to worry about, but booking just makes it easier. The shows themselves were excellent. The use of LED screens makes the theatre feel more modern, and shows like the Take That production were a real highlight. We also had 2 great guest entertainers, and there was always something going on around the ship. The silent disco in the Sky Dome on celebration night was a lot of fun, and there was live music, quizzes, and activities throughout the day. This was a Northern Europe cruise in winter, and that changes how the ship is used. With colder weather, more people spend time indoors. The Sky Dome becomes the center of activity during the day, especially for families. It was busy, particularly around the pool, but I always managed to find somewhere to sit, which says a lot about how the space works. Some people did still use the outdoor pools and hot tubs, and once you were in, they were warm enough, although getting out was definitely a bit of a shock. I even watched Sail Away from Southampton from the aft hot tubs, which was a great experience. Inside, the ship handles the numbers really well. The atrium is spread across 3 levels, there are lots of seating areas, and people naturally spread out. Even with the weather keeping people indoors, it never felt overwhelming. Places like Ocean Studios are great in colder weather as well, with several films on during the day, and 4 screens. One other thing that's worth knowing, especially on a busy sailing like this, is that there are still quieter spaces on board if you know where to go. The Crow's Nest is a really good example of that. During the day, it's open to everyone, but after 6 in the evening, it becomes adults only, which completely changes the atmosphere. This itinerary was really well balanced, with 3 ports of call and 2 sea days. Rotterdam was an overnight stop, which gave the option to visit Amsterdam, as well as explore Rotterdam itself. All of the ports were easy to do independently, with good transport links and straightforward options. That makes it a great itinerary for families, as it's low stress and easy to manage. It was cold, with temperatures down to -2 in Hamburg and snow in both Hamburg and Rotterdam, but it was still very enjoyable with the right preparation. I've got a full Ports of Call series covering each of these destinations in more detail, which I'll link below. The overall atmosphere on board was relaxed, and that was one of the biggest positives from this cruise. With around 900 children on board, you might expect it to feel chaotic, especially during school holidays, but it really didn't. Service overall was good, but you do notice a difference at peak times. In the bars, for example, if you sit and wait for table service, you can be waiting quite a while, especially in the evenings. I found it much quicker to just go to the bar and get a drink. In the main dining room, service was generally very good. But again, at busy times, you could see the pressure. On celebration night, we were seated quickly, but then waited over half an hour before our order was taken. In the end, we had to mention that we had a show booked, and once we did, everything sped up and the rest of the meal was absolutely fine. So it's not that the service isn't good, it's that on a full ship, at peak times you will notice it. Iona is very clearly designed with families in mind. There are dedicated spaces like the reef and scene for children and teenagers, but what stood out to me was that you don't have to rely on them. Dining is another big plus for families. Having options like Taste 360 and the keys means you're not tied to set dining times, which makes a big difference when you're traveling with children. The itinerary works well as well. All of the ports were easy to manage, with simple transport and plenty to see, without needing long or complicated journeys. We had a balcony cabin for 4, with 2 single beds, a sofa, and a bunk bed. It works well, but it can feel a bit tight, especially around the wardrobe, and storage space is limited. The beds were comfortable, and with a bit of organization, it's manageable. Things like magnetic hooks, packing cubes, and storing suitcases under the bed make a big difference. But the reality is, you don't spend much time in the cabin. It's really just a place to sleep. This cruise was very good value for money. I paid just over £2,000 for a family of 4 in a balcony cabin, and that was during the school holidays, which is usually one of the most expensive times to travel. When I look at what's included, that's where the value really starts to show. You've got plenty of dining options, entertainment throughout the day and evening, and a ship that gives you a lot of choice without needing to spend extra. The itinerary helped as well. Because the ports are easy to do independently, you don't need to spend money on ship excursions, which kept costs down. I chose to add the drinks package, and for a family that can work well, especially as children get the refresh package included. But I don't always buy it, and I wouldn't say it's essential. The same applies to Wi-Fi. You get an hour included, and we shared one package between devices, which worked really well, so you don't need to spend as much as you might think. And that's really the key with Iona. The base price is competitive, and then it's up to you how much extra you choose to add. When you combine the price, the experience on board, the itinerary, and how much everyone enjoyed the cruise, it felt like very good value for money. So overall, Iona works really well, even on a full sailing, and especially for families. But if you're thinking about booking Iona, the next thing you need to know is what catches people out on this ship. So watch my 10 things you need to know about Iona video next.